This poor posture is unfortunately what a lot of people's posture looks like nowadays. The jaw is way too far forward, putting unnecessary strain on the neck, and the shoulders are rounded forward internally. We can blame a lot of our daily activities for this, like driving a car, for instance, even looking at our phones a lot, hopefully not doing both of those at the same time, and even just using a laptop like I am right now to make this video. All of these activities make it harder for us to correct this posture by tucking the jaw in towards the neck and letting those shoulders drop down and back a little bit so they're neutral in the socket. And that exact posture, that poor posture, is why when I started doing overhead pressing like pike push-ups, handstand push-ups, etc., I had a shoulder impingement, right? A very sharp pain in the top of my shoulder whenever I was doing those exercises. So in this video, I'll show you the exact training protocol I used to improve my posture and relieve that shoulder pain, and I hope it helps you as well. Okay, really quick before we get started, I just want to mention that if you're experiencing shoulder pain, you really should see a physical therapist, okay? What I'm showing you in this video was specific to my condition, which was an impingement from rounded forward shoulders and forward head, but that doesn't mean that's what you're experiencing. So if you have shoulder pain in any exercises, whether they're pushing movements or pulling movements, anything, definitely see a physical therapist, all right? I highly recommend that. But with that said, if you think you have rounded shoulders and forward head and that's causing your shoulder pain, the stretches and exercises I'm going to show you in this video should not do any harm. If anything, they should help everybody. Let's start off by talking about myofascial release, which is when you break up the knots in your soft tissue to improve blood flow. If you don't have one already, get a foam roller, all right? I will put a link down below to the one I use, but these are invaluable in my opinion. So lay on your side with the foam roller behind you, and what you're going to be doing is rolling your lats here on the side of your upper back. Since your lats are internal rotators, you want to make sure that they're not tight and bound up. So do what I'm doing here. You can see that I have one leg straight on the floor and the other bent, mostly, and I'm using the bent leg, the one with the knee up in the air, to push myself back and forth and to roll my lats. Of course, make sure you roll both sides as well. I don't time my rolling or count or anything like that, but I would say I roll for at least a minute per side whenever I foam roll anything. Then you'll want to get yourself one of these handheld core massagers that I find to be very useful because they allow you to really dig in where the foam roller is not able to reach, and that's going to be very beneficial when you're doing your internal rotators. So here you can see I'm doing my upper chest, the subscapularis, and I'll even do my anterior deltoid as well, spending a good minute or so per side, really breaking up the knots and warming up the tissue. And once I had massaged my internal rotators, it was then time to stretch them, and these are the exercises I used. First, a chest stretch. Bend your arm to 90 degrees at the elbow, putting the forearm and hand up on a door frame like this, and then very slowly and carefully lean your weight forward onto your toes like you're trying to let yourself fall into the door frame. When you do this, you're going to feel a deep stretch in the chest, the anterior deltoid, which is the front of your shoulder. Even your upper traps are going to feel a stretch too. This is a really great stretching exercise. And of course, because you're doing one side at a time, make sure you switch arms so you're stretching both sides evenly. And when you lean forward like that, notice how my head goes a little bit into the doorway. That's really gonna, if you can get to that point, it's really gonna help you get a deep stretch. And next, we're gonna focus on the upper traps. So sit on a bench or a chair or a stool, grab onto the front, and then lean your head, just tilt your head, I should say, in the direction opposite of the arm that's holding onto the chair. And what you're gonna feel as you do this is a deep stretch in the upper traps right there, as well as along the neck, like the sternocleidomastoid, which connects basically from your clavicle to your jaw. If you feel tightness in the traps or the chest or the shoulders or anything we've stretched so far, then that means you need to do daily regular stretching, okay? Of course, stretch both sides, and all of the muscles we're stretching in this video are internal rotators, meaning if they're tight, they're going to lend to rounded shoulders, which is what we're trying to fix. And for the last stretch, we're going to hit the subscapularis, which is basically, it's between the upper chest and the shoulders. So lay on your back with your knees bent, And what you're going to do is you're going to make sure throughout this whole thing that your rear deltoid right there is resting firmly against the ground. Come up into a glute bridge so your hips are up off the floor. Place the backs of your hands against your lower back and kind of interlock your fingers. And then go ahead and let the hips slowly drop. All right? And do that very carefully, because what's going to happen is the weight of your hips coming down are going to create a sort of tension and a stretching on the subscapularis. You'll feel a stretching between the anterior deltoid and the upper chest. And just remember the whole time to keep the backs of your shoulders flat on the ground. Now you're probably wondering, how often should you be doing the foam rolling and the stretching that I just showed you? And my answer to that is daily if you can, okay? Preferably in the evening too, that's when you're most limber. I recommend for the stretching 2 sets of each stretch that I showed you, and hold each set for about 1 minute, as deep as you can. And for the foam rolling, I recommend always doing that before you stretch, because it warms up the tissues, breaks up the knots, it'll help you stretch better and be more flexible. And do that also for 1 minute per muscle group. Okay, and now we're going to talk about the strengthening exercises. So let's strengthen those external rotators that are too weak. This is a foundation pole that runs vertically in my basement, and what I do is I wrap the Velcro strap from my fitness bands around it and then secure the fitness band to it. And what I'm going to do is use that for the exercises I'm about to show you. So first we're going to do external rotations, and to do that you want your fitness band attached to something sturdy, like I'm using that column. Keep your upper arm and elbow tight against the ribs of your side, and then externally rotate the arm. Here you can see my left arm, I'm pulling it to the left away from my midline. Make sure to keep that upper arm and elbow tucked against your side, and that's going to force you to use your external rotators, the rotator cuff muscles on your upper back behind the shoulder, to do this movement, and that's what you need to strengthen to work against the rounded shoulders. Also, make sure you turn around and perform the same exercise with the other arm. So here I'm using my right arm. Even if you only have shoulder pain on one side, you'll want to do both sides for every exercise and stretch that I show you. And for the exercises, if one side is weaker than the other, strengthen it to match the other side's strength. Next, you'll want to remove that Velcro strap and put on another handle. So you'll have 2 handles, one on each side of the fitness band. Wrap the center of the fitness band around the pole or whatever sturdy vertical object you're using for this. And then you're going to perform these rhomboid pull-aparts. So start with your hands together and then pull them apart like this, and the resistance from the band is really going to challenge your rhomboids in the upper back. Those are the muscles, the parascapular muscles that you use for scapular retraction. Notice that as I do these, I'm not locking out at the elbows. My arms are not straight. They're my elbows are bent, and I'm kind of making a weird W shape with my arms and torso. And the reason why is if you lock out the arms, you're going to be using a lot of rear deltoids, and that's not what we want to strengthen here. You want to strengthen the rhomboids. So make sure the arms are slightly bent at the elbows. And the last thing I want to mention about strengthening that's, I think, very important is that I did a 2-to-1 pull to push ratio, meaning I did twice as many sets of pulling exercises like pull-ups and bodyweight rows than I did push-ups and other pushing exercises. I used this ratio for about a month, maybe a little more, and I really think it helped balance out my weak external rotators as opposed to my overactive internal rotators. So how often did I do this? Well, I did 3 times a week for these strengthening exercises. And honestly, I used them as a warm-up for my upper body day. I did 3 sets of both those band exercises I showed you, the rhomboid pull-aparts and the external rotations. They were a great warm-up. And I did as many reps as I could for each set. Sometimes I didn't even count. I just went until it burned. As you follow this training protocol and strengthen your external rotators and stretch your internal rotators, you'll find it easier to avoid this poor posture that I'm doing here. Notice that the backs of my hands are visible. That's because my shoulders are rounded forward. Instead, tuck those shoulders down and back like that, and only the sides of your hands should be visible. It only took me maybe 2 months of following this training protocol to see improvement. So I hope this is helpful to you. All right, remember what I said, that everybody's shoulder pain could be caused by something different, but the stretches and the exercises and the foam rolling that I showed you in this video, it won't hurt anybody. Okay, if anything, it's going to help. So it's worth a shot to see if it improves your condition. Also, in case you're new to my channel, somewhere on the screen here will be a subscribe button in case you haven't pressed that yet. All right? Thank you so much for watching. I hope the advice helps, and I'll talk to you in the next video.